Okay. Hello, welcome to episode 4 of that WNBA podcast. The podcast where we dive deep into the world of the WNBA. Join me as we celebrate the incredible athletes, thrilling games, and inspiring stories that make women's basketball so special. Whether you're a long-time fan or new to the sport, we've got you covered with game analysis, player interviews, and highlights. So, yeah, let's tip off. So, welcome to episode 4 of this podcast with your host, Jan From. As you know, I am new to this and I'm still looking for that new microphone and um, new camera. So I've got a bit of a better quality here, but hopefully you're enjoying the podcast. It's available on all your podcasting platforms, YouTube, Spotify, and hopefully Apple Podcasts soon as well. And yeah, give it a like, subscribe, and comment to get involved. And any suggestions are always helpful. So let's get into episode 4, which is specifically going to be centered around the WNBA All Star Game. So, as we know, the Olympic break is happening at the moment. So there's no WNBA games for a while. Obviously, a little bit disappointing for everyone watching along at home. But we've got a lot to cover in terms of the Olympics, and I'm going to be covering that for the next few weeks. And yeah, hopefully you'll enjoy and follow along as I cover that. But today we're going to talk about the action of the last week, the WNBA All Star Game, some news, and then some of the Olympic coverage going forward. So as we start, this episode might be a little shorter than usual. I don't have as much to talk about, of course, but we'll start with some news from the last week or so, go through some highlights from the All Star Game, some important news on that front, and then we'll get into Olympic coverage, which starts today, depending on where you're watching. So first of all, I just wanted to quickly talk about the media rights deal. So I am by no means an expert when it comes to media rights or broadcasting deals or anything in that direction. I'm obviously a scientist by trade here in Australia, so I do have some experience with numbers. But a broadcasting deal for the WNBA is absolutely huge, as we all know. According to the numbers that I've heard, the new media deal is reportedly worth around $2.2 billion over the next 11 years, and it's absolutely incredible for the league. So I know that some people around the league have said that maybe that's not enough, that it's kind of below par, that it should be higher. I disagree, and I'll give you my reasons why in a second. But before we go through that, it is an average of 200 million a season. To put that in perspective, the league is currently making 60 million a season. So if that's accurate, that's more than 300 times an increase. And the argument around whether that's enough or not, I think, is a completely different story. I'll tell you why I think it is at the moment. But it is important to know that the Players Association with the current CBA can or will likely get another salary increase in 2026. And I think there's option to renegotiate this deal in the coming years as well. But most of us know that the WNBA hasn't and isn't making the amount of money that the NBA does. There's been a lot of talk about equal pay and also about the subsidization of the league via the NBA over the years. We know that it's not as popular, and we also know that kind of this increase of popularity and this increase of eyes on the sport has only really happened this year. And the main reason of that, as we've spoken about before, is Caitlin Clark. And that's really kind of a very recent phenomenon. So we know that the WNBA season has only been going for a couple of months. And even though the numbers have increased in terms of TV ratings, in terms of jersey sales, all that sort of money, we know that probably for a company and for a business model, that's not enough to predict future outcomes when it comes to money in that range. So even though some people might think it should be higher because we're hoping that women's basketball only grows from here, we can't say that for sure. And I think if you're a media rights or a media broadcaster, you can't just go on a couple of months of a season and predict from there on that it will only grow, because we don't know if this is a short time thing. We hope that it's a long time deal, that these numbers will only increase, that the revenue will increase, but you can't be certain. I think it will be. I think people will continue to want to watch Caitlin Clark and the incredible players that the WNBA has to offer, but we can't be for sure. So I think that 300% is a great stepping stone, and I think that's what we have to look at it as. We know that the NBA didn't just get to where it is now immediately. When Magic and Bird came into the league, a bit like Caitlin and Angel now, the NBA finals were delayed on regular TV over in the States. So it's a stepping stone. It's going in the right direction, and for that reason, I think it's plenty good enough for the moment. Moving on, we know that Sue Bird is getting her own Barbie doll. I think I talked about that last week. It's incredible to honor her legacy and also put women's basketball, women's sport in another light for young women. And I think those are the main parts, the main couple of bits of news that I wanted to discuss to start with. Moving on, we have to talk about this All Star Game and the All Star weekend in general. There are a few important things to note, a few bits of news around that. We know that obviously the US coach Cheryl Reeve had some things to say about Caitlin Clark before their regular season game with the Fever. She is the coach of the Minnesota Lynx, and she's also the coach of the USA team. We know that Caitlin got left off for different reasons, whatever that might be. But there was some talk around people maybe hoping that the WNBA All Stars could beat the US Olympic team, just to kind of rub it in a little bit, give them a bit of a test, and also, maybe stick it to Cheryl Reeve a little bit in a way. That obviously happened in the end. So if we have a look at the end score, it wasn't particularly close. So WNBA actually played really, really well and beat the US Olympic team by 8 points in the end. Really, they were outplayed for a number of reasons. There were a couple of standouts. Two of them were rookies, including Caitlin and Angel, of course. And I think it's kind of good in both sides. So I think Caitlin got to rub that in a little bit, that she got the win. I think it's more for fans than anything. We know that Caitlin probably needs a rest after about a year of constant basketball. And I think that's just going to make the US Olympic team better. They haven't really been challenged in terms of women's basketball at the Olympics before. I expect them to win gold again. But I think there are some competition and in a lot closer range than there has been in the past. So we'll see what happens there, and we'll preview that in a little bit. Obviously, in terms of the whole weekend, Caitlin and Sabrina also didn't take part in the three-point contest, which surprised some people. There was some controversy around that and why she's not doing it, whether the league wanted her to do it or not. We know now that the case there was just that Caitlin needs a break. It's also different being a catch and shoot three-point shooter or shooting off a rack, or being a movement three-point shooter like Caitlin is in a regular NBA game. I think Sabrina is suited a lot better to catch and shoot, to shooting off a rack like that. We've seen the contest last year, and obviously we saw what happened with Steph in the All Star Game, which was just incredible. But I think that overall, it was probably a good choice from Caitlin maybe to drag this on for another year. She will take part in the future. She will win them, and it'll be a big spectacle. And why just, have it all out there in the first year and then kind of rush into it? And when you really need a break, you might not win. You're going to get some backlash for that, obviously. And for Sabrina, on the other hand, it was because of the Olympic duties. She didn't feel like she had enough time to really practice to give it her all. And if she wants, or if she takes part in the contest, she obviously wants to win it and to defend that title. So she didn't feel she could do that, so she left that out. Some people here, if you're new to the sport, you might obviously see that the dunk contest is obviously not in the WNBA All Star weekend. The reason for that is that the women's game doesn't have as many dunks, which is totally understandable, something that most of us know. If you're complaining about that, I really think that you kind of got the wrong idea, because for me, the dunk contest in the NBA All Star weekend is not the most enjoyable part of the weekend. I really think they should probably get rid of it, or have less of an emphasis on it, maybe introduce some other events, because really it's kind of stale. There's only so many humanly possible dunks that you can make in that sort of way that'll impress people. And I think it's been going on a long time. I think we've kind of run out of the novelty of it, and I think there are better events. And for that reason, I think that the WNBA All Star Weekend is actually more competitive. It's more enjoyable to watch at the moment. The skills challenge is great. And really, I want to get into the star of the weekend as such, and that's Alicia Gray. She won both events, which is the first time that's ever happened on the same weekend in WNBA history, and it was really incredible to watch. It's a bit of a shame for me that Jonquel Jones didn't end up winning the 3-point contest. I really thought she was going to get close. She was on fire in that first round, and she missed out by one there at the end. That would have really been something. She was doing incredible, but congratulations to Alicia. She did an amazing job, and it was really, really enjoyable to watch. The other thing, obviously, was that we had two rookies make some history. So Caitlin, very highly anticipated, did a great job. She broke the rookie assist record with 10. She was one off the all-time record set by Sue Bird, I believe, with 11. She almost got there, but she just had fun facilitating. Look, she was never going to win MVP this year. People who expected that and all the flashiness, I think that's a bit much. It's a lot more competitive, so you really saw her run the offense and how the vets took to that. I think it was really kind of great to see. She had a couple of shots. She had 4 points, a rebound, but really she was just facilitating there. Threes weren't really falling. I think she really needs a break. But she did an incredible job, and I think it was great to see Angel. They linked up for a beautiful bucket, and Angel was really good. She had a double-double, the first rookie to do that as well. Both of them will win an All-Star MVP at some point, I'm sure. But the big talking point was Arike Ogunbowale from my Dallas Wings. Absolutely dominated. She probably should have also been on the Olympic team. And she ended with 34 points, which she got all of them in the second half. She was absolutely on fire. And honestly, so enjoyable to watch. I think like Caitlin said, one of the best one-on-one players in the league. She was just fantastic. She stole the show. They beat the team. They put some speculation and some things to rest there, I think. And I think she really should have been on the team. She's incredible. The Dallas Wings haven't had the season they would have wanted. But Satu is now back playing for Germany in the Olympic qualifiers. Sorry, in the Olympics. And look, I can't wait to watch her. I love her as a player. I think Dallas will be better in the second part of the season. I kind of hope, and this might be controversial to say, that they tank, because if they get that number one draft pick, man, Paige Beckers next year as the number one pick going to Dallas would be incredible, alongside Arike and Satu Sabali and all that stuff. So that would be really amazing. I would love to see that. But anyway, it was, incredible All-Star weekend, incredible game, really impressive. And I think everyone enjoyed it. Much better to watch than the men's game. It's competitive. They try hard. They play proper basketball. And honestly, I enjoyed it so much more. So if you haven't watched it yet, if you can watch the replay, go and do that. If you're not a fan of women's basketball at this point, go and watch the All-Star game and then go and watch the men's game. And I guarantee you will turn the men's game off 10 minutes in. It's just that boring. The domes are flashy. It's great, fantastic. But apart from that, the best player in the men's game, or the two best players, are Luka and Jokic, and both of them don't try. They don't care. None of them do. They don't want to get injured because they want to go and win a championship. And the game is boring as anything. So really, really, really hope that you go and have a watch. It's incredible. It's really entertaining, and honestly, really, really pay attention to women's basketball in the coming weeks and the coming months. This is obviously a WNBA podcast, and I'm going to strive to put it out there as best as I can. So if you keep enjoying this podcast, I will upgrade the quality. I promise you that, but I need some listeners first and some people that will enjoy and the podcast and get involved. So please do that. Apart from that, I also wanted to comment on Paige Becker's being there. She was in some of these GOAT photos. She had an All-Star jacket given to her. She's already pretty much in the league. They've embraced her. She's definitely going to be the #1 draft pick next year, and I hope she's going to Dallas. So that's my thoughts on that. Another thought I had was that somebody kind of posted that Anthony Davis is the only player to win a Basketball World Cup, Olympic gold medal, NCAA championship, whatnot. It's not the case. He's the only male player. Let's speak in those terms now. There are plenty of female players that have done the same feat, and a lot more of them. So let's speak in those terms. The other big news is that I have received my first pair of the Sabrina 2s. Go check them out on my social media. You can find me on all the social media channels, Twitter and Instagram, at that WNBA podcast. So go check those out. They are fantastic to wear. They are comfortable, and God, they just look so clean. They're amazing. I love them. You can see I'm rocking Luka on the top. Sabrina's on the bottom, which you can't see. But incredible shoe, incredible basketball player, and honestly can't wait to see what she does at the Olympics. And that's what we're going to move on to now. So Olympic basketball. We had some warm-up games. I'm not going to talk about all of them. I'm also not going to go through the few games that I missed last week from the WNBA. You guys can catch up on those. The WNBA will return on Friday, the 16th of August. So a bit of a break. I wish there wasn't, but Olympic basketball is just as good. So yeah, I won't go into those games too much. I'm sure you would have seen them by now, and I want to move on to the Olympics. The big news before the Olympics, we've talked about the WNBA standings as well in the past. Nothing much there has changed. That's all still looking kind of the same. But the big news going into the Olympics is that obviously Diana Taurasi looks like she's going to be playing, so Caitlin Clark won't be picked up for that. She is somewhere in the sun on a yacht, having the time of her life, probably with her partner and her family, and she deserves that rest. She deserves to be a normal person for a while. And with that said, the USA played Germany in the last Olympic game, or the last warm-up game before the Olympics start, and they absolutely dominated. They bounced back from that game against the WNBA All Stars, which realistically are probably their strongest competition. You could feel that All-Star team and probably still win the Olympics. I think Australia is going to give USA a good run for their money. I think Germany at the Olympics, once they get a couple of games under their belt, might as well. But here, the USA completely dominated Germany with a win of 84-57. Bounced back, and yeah, just Germany didn't look good at all. They weren't making any shots to start with. I think the USA got off to like an 11-3 lead. And yeah, the Germans only shot 29.4% from the field and turned the ball over 17 times. Pretty abysmal. And obviously, I said Satu is back, which I'm really grateful for. She's obviously going to be really rusty. She hasn't played the whole season due to a shoulder injury. She was pretty rusty. She had a 3 of 17 night. And yeah, you can expect that. But I expect that to get better during the Olympics, and I expect them to be a much stronger challenge against the US and everybody else when it comes to the Olympics. Moving on to the actual Women's Olympics and a bit of the schedule. So tonight the Olympics obviously start here in Australia, or when you're watching this in the US or around the world. We've got the opening ceremony. I'm really looking forward to the women's soccer. My two home countries, Germany and Australia, will be playing. I don't know who I'm rooting for there. I think either way I'm winning. They're in the same group as the US. I'm really hoping that we knock the US out, one or the other. I think the Matildas are the best team in that group, despite what some people might say. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. But in terms of basketball, I believe that the first game is on Sunday. So it takes a little while to get started. In terms of the countdown, we've got Sunday here, 7:30 West Australian time with Group A. So we've got Spain versus China. And then if we move along, I think Australia play Nigeria on Monday, Australian time. And Germany play also on Monday, 7:30 Australian time, before the US gets underway on Tuesday the 30th at 3 in the morning here in WA, which will be probably Monday afternoon in the US. So I'm really looking forward to that. In terms of what we can expect when it comes to that, let's have a look at the groups. I think the groups are going to play a big role in who we think are going to win this tournament. I know everyone's going to straight away go for the US. That's fine. But essentially, in Olympic tournament play, there are 3 groups. One which has Germany, the USA, Japan, and Belgium. I think most people would expect the USA to top that group. I think Germany will end up second, even though they look so rusty in their warm-up game against the US. Group B, you have Canada, Nigeria, Australia, and France. I think Australia and I'm going to say France or Canada. I'm going to top that group. And then Group A, you have Serbia, Spain, China, and Puerto Rico, which I'm a little bit more unfamiliar with. Let's say I'm not 100% sure who's going to come out on top of there. Then the way it works is that first and second in each group will advance, and then you'll have the 2 best third-ranked teams that also advance through into a quarterfinal draw. So very similar to something like the World Cup or the Euros in soccer, or so far the Euros in soccer, which they've changed recently to where you've got some of the best third-place teams going through. I don't know if I'm the biggest fan there. I think you might as well just add an extra group of teams and have the best 2 teams from each group go through. I think that would be my preference. But I guess relatively it's going to be pretty similar. So yeah, that's kind of the way that's going to work. Obviously, you're going to have 2 sides to the draw in your quarterfinals. The winner of each quarterfinal on each side of the draw plays each other for a chance in the gold medal game or the bronze medal game for the losers. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be a great competition, and I've got you covered over the next few weeks, every Wednesday. So yeah, I think that almost wraps up the podcast. I'm going to leave it a little bit short today. There's not as much to talk about, but I'll keep you updated if you keep looking at X in particular, or Twitter, formerly known as at that WNBA podcast. I'll keep posting news from different accounts that I know are definitely gonna have the goods when it comes to the WNBA and women's basketball. I'll post some of my own thoughts, maybe some previews for some of the games, some odds who I think might win when we get to elimination gameplay. And yeah, see how it all unfolds. My pick right now would be Australia, US final, if that is possible. Actually, let me check if that is possible. So Group B, Group C. Let's see if that's actually possible. I think so. I believe I'm looking at, I've got this laid out slightly differently. I think that is possible. I guess we'll see. But that would be my tip anyway. Either Australia or the US for a gold medal, one way or the other, or whether they eliminate each other in the semi-finals. And then also, I think Germany as an underdog, maybe winning the bronze medal at worst. So I think those would be my top 3 teams. So look out for those. Again, the WNBA All Star Game was an absolutely amazing experience, even watching it from home. Caitlin Clark absolutely crushed it. I know that's what we're all watching it for. Sabrina, great to watch. Alicia Gray did a fantastic job in the skills challenge in the 3-point contest. And yeah, I look forward to seeing where the Olympics go and then coming back to WNBA gameplay following those Olympics. So with that in mind, I think I've gone through everything. I'll just check my notes quickly. I think that's everything I had for today. I think we'll leave it at that. So look, thank you again for tuning in to that WNBA podcast. As always, I hope that you enjoyed today's episode and feel even more connected to the world of the WNBA, the incredible world of the WNBA and women's basketball. Don't forget to subscribe. Leave me a 5-star review, hopefully on any of your podcasting platforms. Follow me on social media at that WNBA podcast, and hopefully connect with some fellow fans. And until next time, keep supporting women's basketball and celebrating these heroes on and off the court.